is very, very unusual, and it has three components. The first is knowledge. So I am a CA, I am a CIA, I am a CISA, everybody knows it. This is 10% above the water, everybody knows it. Okay, that's the first point, that is knowledge. And knowledge you normally acquire through a professional degree or even experience, so it's both. The second, experience. So for example, if I had a bad time with an internal auditor in my previous assignment as an auditee, I would still expect the next one is also going to be bad. So first of all, when the person comes to me, I just blast off. I give a lot of excuses about time and not getting the job done, not having value from internal audit. So this is because of previous experience. And in one of my, I still recollect, in one of my visits about 8-7 years back to one of the plants, when I went for an introduction at head of audit level, the first thing he drew on the board, he said, Mr. Shankar, if you don't mind, I'm going to write something on the board. I said, please do. So he went and wrote. You know, in our organization, we have multiple audits. Let me start. Statutory audit, excise audit, sales tax audit, VAT audit, this audit. Then he says at the end, internal audit. So, and it's saying all auditors contribute to overtime in this organization. I said, how is it possible that auditors contribute to overtime in the organization? There's something fundamentally wrong. So this is because of past experience, previous experience. So what happens in our own life is, while we have the knowledge, experience also matters for us. What is our experience in our job? What is our experience with others? The third most important thing is actually perception. So perceptions are also part of the mind. It is embedded somewhere. And so the moment you see someone, the moment you behave with somebody, the moment somebody doesn't do something to you, we try to put some kind of a tag on that person to say, oh, he must be bad or he must be good or whatever it is. So that is perception. So knowledge, and then you have, what is the second one? Experience, and the third? Perception. So these are three very important if you have to do. The last final point I want to tell you is, I mentioned to you that I will tell you what is the skill that I have obtained in the last 10 years in Aditya Birla Group. I think the most important skill that I've obtained is coaching. And I became a trained coach in 2008 when the organization said, we will have a program called Leadership Through Coaching. And in my view, coaching is the highest form of human engagement. So today, when you look at people around you, great cricketers, Sachin Tendulkar had a coach. And if you look at not only cricketers, I would say golfers and others, they all had coaches. And the coach is someone who doesn't teach. So there's a distinction between coaching, teaching, and mentoring. So let me go from the bottom. When I say teaching, what am I doing? I'm actually imparting knowledge. You go to a school, go to a college, go to, as we call in Bombay, FYBCom. So when you go to FYBCom, so you're taught. So you're actually imparting knowledge of how accounting transactions have to take place. In mentoring, as you know, Narayan Murthy is chief mentor. What is mentoring? Mentoring is actually sharing one's life experiences. That is mentoring. So I am a mentor to 5 or 6 batchmates in my organization. I mentor them. I don't get fully involved, but I mentor them. I share my experiences. They have a problem in Thailand. They call me and say, this is what I'm facing. What do you think I should do? So I mentor them. So mentoring is sharing life experiences, but I don't have any further relationship. But coaching is a very, very strong relationship where I want the other person, my coachee, to succeed in life. So I want that person to succeed in life. So I do coaching for my team. So I'm also a manager and a coach. And I also coach for people outside my corporate audit function. So coaching is a very important skill that I think you can develop, because through that process, you can look at all these competencies and see where you can gain insights into them. Okay? So with that, I would like to thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, I would like to take them. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm Ahi Bhushan from Esher. Likewise, you explained what is teaching and what is mentor. I mean, who would be a mentor? Exactly, what are the specialty of the coaching, and how does it differ from teaching and mentoring? And what are the limitations? If you could explain, it would be really good.
Yeah, thanks. That's good. Very quickly, I'll try to do. I qualified as a coach. It took me 8 months to do it. So I am trying to summarize the learnings and how I apply it. Now, one of the reasons is that why is coaching necessary? because we are looking at a process which is leadership through coaching. So we're saying coaching is an excellent mechanism to build leaders. Now, you can take an example of Mahabharata. So let's look at what is the skill did Arjun have? Anybody tell me? Yeah, what is the skill? Archery? Yeah, he was an expert in archery. So now the question is, if Lord Krishna was with him during the battle, was he advising him on how to use the arch, the bow and arrow? What do you think he was doing? What do you think he was doing? So he was trying to create an environment by which Arjuna will see his potential and deliver results. So both Krishna, Lord Krishna and Arjuna were equally concerned or determined to be successful. Whereas in a mentoring relationship, I am not looking at success of the other person. I am not looking at success. I am only sharing my life experiences and leaving it at that. And it is for that person to take whichever route he wants. But in a coaching, it is a more engaged conversation. So if I have to do a coaching of an individual, first I have to, there is a big process for it. It may take about 3 months to 6 months to coach an individual. So basically what we are doing is we have something called, we do self-observing experiments. So for example, let's say you have a problem dealing with others. So he says my interpersonal skills are not very good. Somebody says something to me, I get flustered, I write a very, an impulsive note, and that note becomes a big problem because everybody says, how the hell can you write a note like this? So people are impulsive when something happens, right? So it is human nature. There's nothing wrong to be there. But the point is in an organization, when you're dealing with people, you have to have a certain level of maturity. So we ask a question, is the person mature? So what kind of processes he or she will adopt to ensure that you are balanced. You don't come out with emotional outburst. So this is a problem with this gentleman. Otherwise, technically very sound, exceedingly good auditor, exceedingly good person in terms of technical skills. But this one behavioral skill is coming in the way, that his interpersonal skills are not very good. Every time he gets into, as they say, a panga, right, with the auditee for no rhyme or reason. He has got excellent analytical skills. His issues are very correct. It is a reportable issue. But the moment there is some dialogue, he gets flustered. And if he uses some language which is inappropriate, then that takes the attention of the auditee, and then he pins him down. So the question is, how do I make this person successful? So it's a long process. It takes 3 to 4 months. First, you have to understand the person, their enterprise, and there is a model. Obviously, every process has a model. We use a model to find out what is good for you, what do you want in life. So there are things like, what is it that you want in life? Not recently, many years ago, when I was working in an organization, the chairman of the organization was always wanting perfection. He is a perfectionist to the core. So to the extent that I was doing an audit maybe in the mid-90s in one of the sales offices, and then he came into the office. He's the chairman of the company. He came into the office, saw some painting there, and he said, that painting is not right, is not rightly placed. He says, call the GM. So the GM, civil, and the plant, everybody came, and then they had a look at it, and everybody found, I was also looking at it, and the painting looked quite okay to me. But for him, it was a 1 millimeter off. But the question is, when he went for training, this I came to know later. So when he went for training, and somebody asked him, what is it that you want, sir? So he says, I want perfection in everything that people do. Because he had the habit of throwing out presentations out of the window, which did not meet his standards. So what he would do is, he said, I want perfection. Which means that if an ashtray has to be kept on the middle of the table, it better be in the middle of the table. So the question is that what we want? Is that what will happen? So one way of actually doing this is never impose, and sometimes I keep telling my team, never impose your own standards on others. Never impose your own standards on others. Never say that A does this, why the hell you can't do this? That's the worst thing that can happen. Never compare, whether it is salaries or otherwise, or competencies. Never compare. A is getting more than me, or A has better competencies. Don't compare it. You have to work with the individual and see how you can raise the level of competency that you're looking at. So this is a long process. It may take 3 months, it may 6 months, but it's a lot of engagement. So the first meeting I have with the coachee would be for 3 hours to understand. Then we explain the steps. Then we give them some test to say, okay, suppose you're getting angry. Can you write down how many times you got angry in the next 3 weeks? All right? Please write it. Whenever you get angry, please write it, circumstances and why you got angry. So there are times I would say, when coaching is a skill that I have learned, I have applied coaching to myself. I don't get perturbed when things go wrong because we see it as part of risk, right? As auditors, we always see risk. We know the risk. We understand the risk. So something is bound to go wrong. So if you miss a flight, it's fine. There's a cost to it, I agree, but it happens. And I still recollect that how you can change risk into opportunity. I'll give a last example on this to say that in my office in the World Trade Center in Delhi, we have a parking that goes right up to the 3rd level in the basement. And so, but whenever I go on the 1st level, 2nd level, it's always free. But the security would never allow me to park there. I used to get very flustered when the whole thing is free because they said one is for valet parking, one is for something else, but self-driven cars, you have to take it down to the 3rd floor in the basement. So for 3 or 4 months, I struggled with myself and said, you know, this is really tearing me apart. Why the hell I can't park in the 1st floor or the 2nd floor? Then I turned it into an opportunity. Today, the security is very, the last several years I would say, the security is very amused that I don't get into an altercation with him. And he doesn't want to explain the law to me. I don't even ask anybody. I go straight to the 3rd level basement and park the car. And then I told myself, then I have to walk up the steps. It's good for my health. My BP will get reduced. Probably my sugar also will get reduced. And I'm going to see it on the positive side. So now I don't get flustered at all. So I'm very, very happy even going to the 4th basement if they construct one tomorrow. Right? Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear from Mr. N.G. Shankar for that wonderful presentation. Very incisive, very thought-provoking, and full of a lot of practical tips that we can all take home. Thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, ensuring that data is kept safe from corruption and access to it is suitably controlled is one of the rising challenges in this day and age. With the advent of cloud computing, the challenges assume different proportions. Our next speaker addresses this very concern over the next 45 minutes or so. He's a certified BS 7799 lead auditor and has played a prominent role in getting various organizations certified under the ISO 27001 standard of information security. As the Chief Executive Officer of Mahindra SSG, he defines the roadmap for all business risk security assignments and innovation. A postgraduate in electronics engineering, he is recognized as a global thought leader. His perspectives on business innovation, competitive advantage, business intelligence, and sustaining growth in a complex globalized world have been much appreciated across several fora. He is an active member of the CII, the Bombay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, FICCI, and NASSOCAM, and has been a part of the events and projects in India and abroad. Ladies and gentlemen, to make our next presentation on data security, digital and non-digital data, and cloud computing, please welcome Mr. Dinesh Pillai.
Good afternoon. Actually, I am standing at a point where a lot of people will be cursing me because I'm the one who is going to stand between you and your lunch. Having said that, I will try to finish my presentation as early as possible. I have slightly changed the topic because I'm sure a lot of people will be speaking about cloud forensics and cloud computing and all that. So when I looked at my last 6 or 7 years of experience in this business, and I mean, there are a lot of my colleagues and my friends and my partners and some of my clients sitting inside. What we have noticed is that there is a role which an audit function can do, but perhaps is not able to do because of various reasons. And what I'm going to talk about is primarily on that area. I will talk about the risk and all as we go along. I will try to restrict it to 45 minutes. And so basically, like I said, I'm going to talk about what are the risks, how prepared are we, and what is the efficiency of the system that we have, and how do we need to improve, and obviously what is the role of all the auditors sitting inside. Since we have been in this business of protecting data and protecting information for last 8 or 9 years, what we have seen even now when we go to the organization is very interesting. They have a set of policies, procedures, and a manual, which is the so-called Bible. But when you actually go through it, you realize that it is only focusing on one area, which is IT. So when you say it is information security, the people's belief is information is IT. Now, we need to understand where the risk is coming from. So you are trying to fight an old age crime, or rather a new age crime with an old age control. So it is like asking the beat police to do cyber security. That's what is exactly the information security manuals that we have seen is doing. There are obviously some changes, but generally it is in that line. Today the risk is not coming from where you have anticipated it to come from. It is coming from multiple regions. How many of you use BlackBerry here? Please raise your hands. Okay. How many of your BlackBerry is actually configured by your IT team? Right. How many of you know the password of the BlackBerry server that you are accessing? This is the point. Nobody needs to hack any systems today to know what is going on, because you can try this out. You go to your BlackBerry server, whichever is it, service provider, Vodafone, Reliance, or Airtel. Your login name is your mobile number. Your password is 123456. Just try this out. So when we can't even protect that basic thing, right? There's no point about talking about, cross-border terrorism and all this. I mean, we have been interfacing with almost all the senior management people of most of the organization. The situation is not dramatically different. But actually, the people who raised their hands for the first 2 times and people who did not raise their hands the 3rd time actually indicates a point. It shows that when you are the ones who are supposed to be identifying the risk, you don't even know the risk. So why would anyone value you? So this is exactly what the previous speaker was talking about. How do you enhance the value of the audit function? If you start looking at the current scenario and thinking that what we perceived our risk 10 years back is still the risk, then you have missed a point. Nobody is going to value the audit function. The spread of networks, and people today, somebody was talking about, where is the cloud server? Nobody knows. So there are legal issues. It's not very easy to, we can keep on talking that this is the way we should do it, but you can't really do it because of the various legal issues involved even in the cloud. I don't want to get into any of these areas, right? Now, a lot of times when we discuss with auditors also, they say, this is supposed to be a legal point. So this has to be handled by the legal and law enforcement agencies. What can they do? The last mile of security is always with you. You cannot outsource this monkey to somebody else's shoulder. That's what we have seen all across, that everyone believes that somebody else is doing it. So when we talk about the risk, please understand the risk is gone much beyond what we can imagine. The people who are actually after us are far, far ahead of us. You just cannot catch them. If you think that you are going to tackle them, it's actually, you are living in fool's paradise. You cannot catch up with these people. We have seen people who really hack the system, how they hack the system, and you will be amazed with their capability. Having said that, what is interesting to us is that today when we speak about risk, everyone is aware of it. Every board member is very clear that we need to look at risk. Ironically, this is a slightly old survey, but it still holds good. When we talk to people about the risk management framework, this is primarily from a financial sector, 32% of the respondents believe that the risk management needs an overhauling. But what is interesting is the next 2 lines. 27% believe that everything is fine, we just need to tweak slightly here and there, so it should be okay. The risk today, whether it's on data, whether it's on information, whether it's on networks, is not because of the lack of controls. It is because of the lack of culture. It's because of the lack of risk culture in the organization. The risk always takes the lowest priority unless it impacts the financials of the company. So when we talk about the risk, And the framework that is currently existing in most of the organizations, I'm sure you will agree with this, the coverage is generally on the financial risk, the operational risk, IT and technology, as I said, governance. And obviously, people believe that as long as I got certifications, I'm fine. So you have this ISO 27001, BS 7799, you name the number, you put an alphabet and put a series of numbers, there is one number available for certification. So the top management believes that it is fine because we have made the investments, we have been certified, nothing ever happened, nothing ever gets reported, so fine, things are okay. So like the previous speaker was saying, the business he's got just 5 minutes. Why is that he just got 5 minutes for this? The man spends hours discussing a merger and acquisition, but when it comes to risk, he's just got 5 minutes. I think that's something which this audience need to look inside and figure out why is it like this, that most of you don't get the attention that you need. So I think that is where the role of auditors actually comes into a serious point of debate and discussion. What I'm talking right now is my own personal opinion. It has got nothing to do with what my company is, what my previous company is, nothing. It's my own objective analysis of what we have seen in the last 10 years. Having said that, I just want to show you a video about what is the role of the auditor in the organization today. So it's a 20-second video. I'll just give you the brief. There are two teams. You will see it's like basically they're doing a passing the ball kind of a game. There's a team which is in white, and there's a team which is in black uniform. So you just need to count the number of times the white actually passes the ball to the white. Please remember, it's a number of times the white passes the ball to white. If anybody can get it right, if anybody can get the number right, then there is obviously a prize which Bhaskar will give it to you at the end of this presentation. Right? He is surprised actually, but anyway. And please remember, it's just the white to the white. And obviously, I don't know whether you need to. So obviously, it's a game. So maybe, I mean, if you want, you can divide it into 3 teams like this, A, B, and C, and probably we will decide who wins it. Just watch carefully the white passing the ball to white. If anybody had seen this video previously, please don't participate in the game because it will kill the part of it. So you see here, some people in black, some people in white, and there is a ball. Please check how many times the white is passing to white. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, continue. So that's it. Team A. How much? 14. Any other number from team A? 15. Anybody got more than 18? No. So they are in 14 and 15. What about team B? 12, 13, 14. And team C? 12. Okay. Interesting. This is exactly what the auditing does in an organization, right? Now, what is it that you audit? You audit a compliance requirement, right? Now, anybody in this auditorium had seen anything else in that video? Please raise your hand. Okay. So now I'm going to play the video again. Now don't count the ball, just look at the video. You will see a gorilla coming in front of you in this video, thumping the chest, and 3 or 4 people saw it in the video in this room. So I'll explain the logic why it is like this. See this guy? So how many of you had seen this first time? Now I see a lot of hands coming up, so okay, fine. See, the point is, I told you one statement, count white to white. This instruction is what you follow in mind when you start looking at the compliance. You are only going to check what has been told to you. You don't look at the other risk which is existing in the organization, because you will say, as per this requirement, you are compliant, so that's fine. Unless you start looking at the other risk, there's no way the audit function is going to become what it is. Then we hear a lot of things. When we speak to auditors, this is first thing. The auditors and the team management tells us, we are a fantastic company in respect of technology, so it cannot fail. We have every gadgets that is required, right from, encryptions and whatever you call it, we have everything in place. If you have the gadgets and the pilots are looking backwards, nobody in the world is going to save them, right? Something more interesting coming up, we say we are giving it to an outsourced party. So they are one of the best in the country. So now you are risking your life on his aim, right? Again, the third one is much more interesting. This obviously is not coming from the auditors in that sense, but coming from the senior management most of the time. We have control in place, right? So if the bike guy falls down, he's not going to hit the head, he's going to hit somewhere else. And the control is actually the helmet. This is what I talked about. The compliance requirements are being made like this most of the time, that somebody has said that this is the control that I need to have. We put it 5 years back. We are basing everything on certification. So the certification says every year there has to be a review. Somebody signs, says reviewed, modified, done. Nobody, I would say, not even 50% of the people actually read that manual even when they are actually doing the review. They just sign the front page. This is what is going to happen. And then something interesting will happen. People start wondering, why is it like this? Because something goes wrong somewhere, all of a sudden then the postmortem starts. The fundamental belief in the risk is that somebody previous to me is taken care of the risk. So why should I worry? So for instance, when you see a person walking around in your office without a visitor badge or with a badge, you don't really walk up to him and ask him, who are you? Why are you here? Because you believe somebody at the gate has already cleared him. He's come to meet somebody else, not me. So it's okay. Similarly, in most of the organizations that we work with, this is also a point which I think you should figure out how you want to do this. I'm just talking about a very simple thing like an IT password policy. 8-character alphanumeric, right? And I don't think there will be many organizations in this room who doesn't follow this policy. So what do you do? What will the IT person do to enable this? He will go to the authentication server or the LDAP server or even the domain controller, enable those ticks, right? What you will do as an auditor to audit that? You will go, you will open the same screen and look for the ticks. The ticks are enabled, you will put a tick mark saying that comply. Have you ever even thought what is the password people are using? 3 days back, there was an article in one of the newspapers which said 57% of the people use password 123 as a password. It cannot be much different in your organization. But the point is, when you are giving a report, are you really looking at the placement of the control or are you looking at the efficiency of the control? It's very unlikely that most of the people who are sitting in this room are looking at the efficiency. It's always the placement. Let's put the tick mark or put a cross, that's it. The third point, which I'll come towards the end, but I'll just brief it on first. Even when you do a process audit, do you do a vertical audit or something else? How many of you do a vertical process audit? That means you will go from top to bottom of the process. Most of the companies do a vertical audit. So that means you will take sales, top, bottom, finance, bottom, top, bottom, identify the gaps, discuss with the process owner. It doesn't even go up to the top. Because you don't feel that there is any need to report even minor gaps that is coming up. Because the auditee has a brilliant word to face you. He will say, I will give you a CAPA. That means corrective action plan. You come after 6 months and check whether I have done it. Today the risk is not from that single gap that exists in the process. Because people sitting inside the organization, they know exactly what are the gaps in each process. Interestingly, we were actually called by one of the clients to do an investigation on one of the data leakages that happened. One of the MNC companies, you name it, they have it, technology, process, everything, 100% compliant, not by the tick marks, but by intent. So we were told that the data leaked from the IT system, so you please go and check the IT systems. So we struggled for almost 2 months and we went back and we decided that there is nothing much we can actually find from the IT system because there is no unauthorized activity that we have been able to sense in the IT system. So then we were talking to the legal, head of legal, and he said, it's a brilliant company to work, but there is just one point that it's hurting me. Every month I had to file a case against a couple of my employees. So when we did a deep dive into this, said we have a corporate governance policy which talks about a lot of things, but there is one thing which is very clear, that if there is a financial fraud or a sexual harassment accused by somebody in a named complaint, that person has to be put on a show cause. So in that 15-day or a 30-day notice period, the HR, the legal, and the business actually figure out, is there any merit in this case? And the poor soul is supposed to come and prove that he is actually innocent. Some interesting statistics came out when we discussed with him. We asked him that, what is your success rate of finding that the person has actually done it? He said 82%. And then it's an immediate termination. So then we asked him what happens to the remaining 18%. He said eventually they also leave because their integrity has been questioned, though they do it in a very secret manner. So we had actually had an interface with the IT head, and we asked him that if a person has to be removed from the system, what is the process that you do? So he showed us a page. Before the start of next day's business, I had to disconnect him from the system. So he used to handle the IT and the physical access, everything. And he does it in 3 hours, flat. Now we took this information and went back to the IT and we said, if a person is on show cause, what is it that you do? He said, show cause is between the business, HR, and legal. I'm not a part of it. I get a note on the last day and I disconnect him. Put the dots together. The person who has been accused, he knows by statistics he is going to be out in 30 days or in whatever time frame. But for the given point of time, he has the full access in the systems, whether it's physical or IT. When we showed this to the CEO, he actually jumped up. He said, how can this be? We get audited, like previous speaker was saying, get audited almost 12 times. Internal audit, external audit, customer audit. So we said, okay, fine, we will show you the audit reports, which is something which we have done. We did a vertical audit and we said, every process is doing the way it is supposed to be functioning. There's no gap. It is only when you put this dot together that you see that there is a path you can take and people know this path. So let's not depend upon too much on the audit reports. Then this happens. Then we start saying that, okay, it's on that particular day of the year, that particular moment, we were not prepared, otherwise we are okay, always. Now the point is, if you want to do this mind shift in the management, the only people who can do this is auditing. There is nobody else who can do this. This I'm talking from my own experience. Because the irony is, somewhere the auditors also start getting into these areas, saying that what is going to be the financial risk, what is the operational risk, what is the technology, what is the governance. In a sense, these are also directed because of the compliance requirement at various levels. But the fact is, we are missing a couple of points that you need to really look at. If you really want to look at the risk, physical access. So today when you say, what is the risk, how do you define the risk? I mean, you can use multiple formulas, probability, likelihood, impact, this and that. But what is the risk? To a business head, what is the risk? It basically falls into 3 categories. One is the brand, second is the financial risk and competitive risk, and third is the legal and regulatory risk. Now, if you start looking at these 6 as the domain, and somehow can you connect it back to the risk with respect to the brand, and there are various financial models that you can do this on. You take, I mean, I'm not suggesting that you only look at the personal risk at one level. You have to interpolate all this and actually do a mix and match. For instance, if I can walk into an organization and ask a person, you give me your password, and if he gives it, is the IT at the fault or is it the person at the fault? Person at the fault, right? So you obviously are doing a social engineering. If I can get the same kind of sensitive data from the garbage from a third party, who is at fault? People will say third party, but actually the organization is at fault. Because you have done your homework on the IT side, but you have never bothered to look at the other side. Today, a lot of people still talk to us. I mean, when we go and meet people, they say, how do you hack the system? And actually they get surprised when we say we don't hack the system. People actually give the access to us like this. Every organization which is doing the auditing, I think probably in the next audit cycle, you need to think this in your mind. Every time you're doing an IT audit, what do? You do a vulnerability assessment and a penetration test. Anybody else? If there is anyone else who is sitting in this audience who does something else, please raise your hand. So what do you do? No, I'm talking about the IT network. I'm not talking about passwords and all. This is the only thing that you do in an auditing space. Now you look at the process. You know the process, but I'm just telling you the process. In the penetration testing, you are asking a person to penetrate your IP by giving him a public IP. That's fine. What is it that you are going to do? Because if you really monitor your traffic, you will realize that there are so many attempts on a daily basis to hack the system. That's fine. I'm not saying that you should not do it. You should do this. What is concerning to me is the second test that you people do with a lot of consultants, which is the vulnerability assessment. What do you do in this? You get a consultant inside, you give him an IT connectivity, you give him an ID, password, and he runs a set of tools. And he will give you a report saying that this is the OS issue, this is the application issue, you patch it, done. What is it you are trying to test? You are trying to test the cable. By doing a vulnerability assessment, you do nothing but test the cable, because the risk comes when people start connecting to the network. How many of you sitting in this room test what a person who is an employee inside this organization is doing in the network? If I see 5 hands raising, I'll say that you are doing something. We always believe that once a person is given an access, whether it's an employee, third party, consultant, you name it, even a facility management guy, once you give him an access, you tend to believe that he is not going to violate the rules if at all is being given to him. It's a trust. You can do this exercise, you will be amazed with the output. You figure out how many people joined you from your competition in the last 24 months. Can be direct competition, indirect competition. You go and ask the HR, how many of those people are still within the system? You will be surprised, the number will be around 30 to 35% of the people are still in the system, and you don't even know where the remaining 65% people are gone. HR knows where they are gone, because they get a, the background check. Out of that 65%, you will be surprised, almost 80% of the people would have gone back to the same company from where they are coming. You can try this in your organization. I am sure the numbers cannot be drastically different. It will remain the same. So what are we talking about? Risk. What is the point of testing from an external point when you are not even looking at the internal side? The reason why I am saying all this is because it's you who are supposed to highlight the risk rather than saying that you are compliant with what is required. The moment you are able to do that, then you will understand what is the risk with respect to your business from all the circles that we are talking about. And as an auditor, you also have a disadvantage because you will have to do a sample-based system, right? Who is asking you to do a sample-based system? The trap is something which you yourself walked into. You can actually do a detailed audit. I mean, there are people who are sitting in this room who do very detailed audit on companies. But since the organization culture is on compliance, you also fall into the same trap, and then you decide why take unnecessary issues. As long as you continue in the same mode, it is the business that will give you 3 minutes, and later on you will say, you go and speak to my secretary, he will settle the issue. That's what's going to happen. I think my experience is that the power that you people have in an organization, you are not even utilizing it. There are clients who come and ask us, can you change the audit report because it has to go to SEBI? They try to play with the words. We say, we are not going to do it. But then they say, but last time to usne kar diya tha. I said, you go back to them. Now, why do you do that? In this particular case, when I asked the head of audit, he told me, yaar, MD bol raha hai ki isko change kar le. Either you should resign and leave, or you leave the report to MD and say, please now you do it your way. I can't do beyond this. But the point is you are willing to shift. You are willing to oscillate. Then obviously the value will not come in. I think what you need to do is to use this simple technique which we have been using quite often while we are auditing. And there are some people who are sitting in this room who will vouch for the outputs that we have produced. we are not in the, we don't believe in compliance. We believe in saying that where the risk is. Unless you use an attacker's perspective to identify the risk. It's a simple thing like what I told about BlackBerry. I mean, why do I need to hack your email server? Because I know every mail comes to your BlackBerry. All I need to do is to go to the BlackBerry server, put a rule saying that every mail that comes here, put cc to dinesh.pillai@mahindrassg.com, fine, the game over. You won't even know this. So unless you start getting into the different frame of mind, can I really break the process rather than audit the process? It is not going to really take you to a different level in that sense. So what is this OODA loop? It's a very famous thing. I mean, you can actually Google it up. I think due to the lack of time, I will not be able to explain in detail, but this is something which is used by a US pilot, fighter pilot called John Boyd. When they were actually getting rogered in the South Korean War, the Vietnam War, I think, he came out with this theory that I will take off. I mean, he's a pilot. He said, I will start my fight from a point of disadvantage. In an aircraft, in an air fight, what is the point of disadvantage? That means your enemy is on your tail. I mean, he can actually shoot you down. He said, from that point, I can actually shoot down the enemy in 40 seconds. So he's been called as 40-second Boyd. He has apparently has not written any books or anything on this theory, but this is a theory which has been used across the life by every person, but we forget this theory when it comes to our business. So basically it says observe, orient, decide and act. When it comes to the auditing function, we actually observe only the sample size which is given, because you are focused only on that sample at that point of time and what process you are auditing. With that mentality, this loop will not work. What you need to do is